Hello, good morning everyone. Nice to see you. My name is Tarmo and I'm the MC for this talk. Our speaker today is Esben, who is the director of Apart Research. Apart Research is a decentralized organization that facilitates AI safety research. And the topic of this talk is going to be how to work on AI safety research outside of the current major hubs. At the end of the talk, we will be doing a Q&A. So submit your questions through the Swapcard app. If you don't know how to do that, you navigate to the session, you click on live discussion and the questions. You can also upvote other people's questions, so we will prioritize the more popular questions. Yeah, without further ado, let's give a warm welcome to Esben.
Thank you. Greetings, everyone. I see there is audio. Perfect. So welcome to this talk on exploring AI safety research outside of the hubs and a little guide for aspiring researchers. What we're going to talk about today is a bit of a small introduction to how AI safety looks today and how you can work on it. And my name is Esben Kran. You can find the slides at kran.ai/Stockholm. So I co-founded the European Network for AI Safety. I founded Apart Research, and I have been coming from game development, some entrepreneurship stuff as well, and now work with AI safety full-time. So, short introduction on Apart Research. We are working towards ensuring a benevolent future where we are sort of working in collaboration with AI and hopefully avoiding some of the uncontrollable AI risks. And to do this, we facilitate direct research within AI safety. And we do this with alignment jams and our hackathons, going into Apart Lab, which is a research program, a publication program for people from the hackathons. And the output is great researchers with great credentials. So that's the short introduction of what we do at the moment. First off, let me talk a bit about what are hubs. So hubs are, as we see it, the centers of R&D, so research and development of AI and for AI safety. And there's of course a few benefits to this. There are some, talent concentration, networking, and so on. But there's also a problem of sort of alienating the rest of the communities that are from around the world. And in this case, we are in Scandinavia here. There are two major hubs of development. There are London and San Francisco, right? So for AI development, you have Anthropic, OpenAI, DeepMind, etc. And most of these, of the ones that target AGI development, so artificial general intelligence development, are located in the spot, San Francisco. And this, of course, makes it hard to keep up with the developments as people who work outside of these hubs. And while AI safety then also wants to, of course, be very close to this, so many of the lead organizations are also based in San Francisco at the moment. So Alignment Research Center, Redwood Research, and then you have Conjecture in London, and more is happening in London, but you still have these major hubs themselves. So what does outside of the hubs really mean? Well, right now there is actually a lot of stuff happening. So when I came back from, so last year I lived in San Francisco for a bit, and when I came back to Europe, I was surprised that I didn't really know much about what was happening. And this was also part of why we co-founded the European Network for AI Safety, to make this work outside of the hubs more available for people. And what you can see here at the top is that's from our Alignment Jam hackathons. So they've happened in person in more than 30 different locations across the world. It's quite dark in this one, but you can see in the middle, that's Europe. Down there is Australia, there's the US, there's South America, and there's East Asia. So there's actually people interested in this stuff from around the globe. And down here you have the European Network for AI Safeties, a network of different hubs and different areas with explanations for what is happening in these places. So there's so much happening, and especially in academia, we see a large growth in AI safety research. So I, of course, believe that you should be a part of it. This is an opportunity to join in something that is going to be incredibly impactful for the future. So as a small aside, I'm just going to talk shortly about why AI safety is of course important, and specifically technical research in this case. I assume you've heard a few of the arguments, but there is already, if you only look at short-term expected value, so many people think about the future, human lives, but even on the short-term scale, we actually see that it's extremely impactful on the margin because there are so few people working on it, and there's such a large impact on human lives that we expect over the next 100 years or so. And so these are current human lives. This is even not including the future human lives. And it's of course very neglected. So as you can see here, this is the growth of AI safety researchers. So it is an estimate, and from Macaleese. So right now you see we're over here at 2022, and there's about 250, 260. There is another article by Leach who mentions that there's actually a lot of AI safety research that has happened and grown from academia, and I will target a few of those and talk about a few of those as well. And then, of course, we have the long-term value of AI safety and AI safety research, being that, well, human lives are going to be hopefully continue into the future, and so we want to make sure that there are no extinction risk events from these sorts of uncontrollable AIs. And then you have tractability, and this is a larger issue that I wanted to touch upon, because right now what many are worried about is that, okay, is AI safety technical research positive on the margin for creating a better future? And I personally think so. I think if we can work with some of the current paradigms in making AI safer, understanding what is happening inside the networks, and redirect them towards something that is even better, then this is very, very good. And of course, there's also AI governance, and this is becoming more and more important with the shifts that have happened in artificial intelligence over especially the last 3 months for that matter. But you know, it's all just a growth curve out of proportion. So AI governance, a short note. Here you have an awesome post-AGI future. You have avoiding catastrophic accidents. Then you have this thing, which is the manual that technical AI safety researchers are building. And then you have the 2 other boxes, which in this case is from Bernd's post, a wonderful one, where the 2 other boxes are avoid bad actor problems, so people misusing AI. And the bottom one is making sure that people actually follow the manual we've created. So that's a bit of what AI governance does. So it's very, very broad. It's actually all the way from strategy coordination between labs, but also within more broader, of course, lobbyism and talking with politicians and making sure that we have public outreach about the risks of AI. So that's a bit of what it is, and it matters right now a lot, I think. So we, of course, with FLI's letter on a 6-month pause for AI, we've seen quite a bit of public sentiment that is actually surprisingly healthy or surprisingly well reacting to some of the risks that we see from AI. So right now, if we are able to share in this position and share our views and what we see as changing right now, then we can actually guide the conversation quite well into something that is aware of the risks we will probably face. And from an AI safety technical position, then I mean, if you're an expert in AI safety research, then you'll also have the expert positions in actual AI governance to have the credibility there. That's a few notes. And here is where you might be able to be a part of it. So of course, the hubs themselves, they're quite focused on these OpenAI, DeepMind, Anthropic. That's the, I don't know, so-called safe AGI laboratories. And then you have Conjecture, FAR AI, so Fund for Alignment Research, you have Redwood Research, you have ARC, you have an array of other organizations that work full-time on AI safety research. And they are also in the hubs. So one of my points, I think, that is slightly neglected within EA is that academia is actually a very, very good place to think about AI safety and to research this in a good way. So in general, it's massive, it's open. There is a there's a limited capacity for the talent that we see. You know, we have all these amazing people sitting here today, and that I don't know if we have enough organizations to actually take everyone in. And a lot of very, very talented people will then be able to go into academia and influence the local areas as well, and work outside of the hubs in this way to do research that is both. There is a note that like academia is slow and safe, while the others are not, and I think it's a very good note. And the other side is that academia is actually sort of underrated sometimes. I think people say, okay, well the review process, oh it's skewed anyways and all this, but it's actually a very good process for filtering out bad research or finding good or finding errors in these posts. So this is something that, for example, Alignment Forum and LessWrong doesn't have to the same degree, where academia has this formalized in a very good degree. And I think some of the forums are working on making more review possibilities available. But at the moment, academia is very good for this. And I think it's also very, very important that we try to institutionalize AI safety, that we try to make sure that we have real positions in real like universities and in these areas that are relevant for public opinion, relevant for where we go. Of course, it's everyone has to take their own position on what they feel they fit best with. But AI safety is just growing outside of EA really, really fast. And there's a lot of opportunities to go into, for example, think tanks, go into different research organizations, go into growing auditing companies for AI safety and certification. Some of the things that the EU AI Act has made available, right? And an array of other things. And then there is a note on agendas, like you don't have to have an agenda for your AI safety research. Really, there is a good option in just doing object-level research and then figuring out your agenda along the way. So this is sort of how academia does it, right? You do a lot of very good research, or you just work on it, you code, you jump into the fray, and then on the other side, you realize how does this fit into AI safety more generally. And this little column on the right side is basically, is AI safety only happening on alignment forum? No, it is not. This is something where we see academia actually do a lot of work. So the first one is Concrete Problems in AI Safety by Amade et al. And you would expect most AI safety papers to refer to this one. And there's like 9, so that's citations, 1911 citations from other papers to that. But you also then have neural Trojans, you have risk from learned optimization. These have relatively few citations. And then you have deep learning and with differential privacy. So that's one paradigm to work within something that's relevant to AI safety. Out of distribution benchmarks, that has even more citations. You have towards deep learning models resistant to adversarial attacks. And adversarial attacks are of course quite relevant to our work with out of distribution and making sure that the models actually generalize in a good way to the test sets and generalize in general to deployment in a good way. So there's 8,000 citations, right? This is a real field. This is something that's happening outside of AI safety. So there's just a lot happening that I personally think that it's quite good for everyone to be aware of compared to only reading on alignment forum. Though that is also really amazing research. And of course, you have an array of other fields as well. You have cybersecurity, you have cryptography, you have symbol emergence, cognitive modeling, learning theory, infosec, neuroscience. I don't know where that list stops. I do not think it does. It is a matter of what can we do? What can we do to make AI safer from a technical perspective? And there's a lot there. And of course, you have AI governance and EAGxEvals as well, some of the newer ones. So EAGxEvals is the Alignment Research Center's evaluation schemes for testing the danger of current models. So trying to deploy them in dangerous environments, seeing how they react, and then hopefully shutting them down before they actually do the thing that's bad. So there's a whole space outside of EA where all this is happening, and this is quite important to realize and quite important to interact with. And taking your own path there is very, very good. So this is also a path from outside the hubs, right? You have a local environment that you can work within. You also have an international environment. You have a lot of communities that work in AI safety and that you can connect with. Yeah, so understanding the stage a little bit. Right now there's been a lot of changes happening, and this goes into the whole, are we actually able to create the technical solutions for safe AI quickly enough? We have so much development, right? Just the last 3 months or so. GPT-4, ChatGPT plugins, AutoGPT, Sapir Natural Language API. All this stuff is sort of proto-AGI, right? We have the Sparks of AGI paper that Microsoft researchers put out that looks at just all the capabilities of GPT-4, finds that it is crazy, basically, finds that it is scarily good at a lot of things, and scarily good to the degree that we wouldn't even expect humans to perform in many different tasks, right? And then you have the GPT-4 system card, some crazy research on AGI capabilities, and the EAGxEvals, as mentioned, they tested on GPT-4, basically deployed it to the cloud, and it ended up creating instances of itself that fooled some online freelancers to click on the CAPTCHA buttons where it says, are you a robot or not? And they were fooled to do that, so they asked, are you a robot? And the model said, oh, I have to fool them to make them think I'm not a robot. So so the GPT-4 model was like, no, I just have bad eyesight. And then they clicked all the buttons anyways. So this kind of stuff, you know, it's crazy. We are actually seeing the early stages of these models become scary. And so this is something that's quite relevant to understand, right? And then, of course, we had the open letter from the Future of Life Institute with signatures from some of the most prominent researchers in the field of deep learning and AI safety. So we have Bengio, so Joshua Bengio. We have Max Tegmark, who's he's not in deep learning, but he's the lead of Future of Life Institute. We have Gary Marcus, who has been very skeptical of AGI actually being possible from language models, but has now taken the position that they are still extremely risky, that they still need to be paused. You have Stuart Russell, one of the originators of to some degree, some of the modern deep learning strategies, right? Where he's the co-author of the book that everyone reads. You have Emad Mostak, you have Elon Musk, you have Conor Leahy, you have Steve Wozniak. Just a lot of people. 27,000 is quite a few saying no. So this is about pausing these massive models training. And we've seen some responses from OpenAI's Sam Altman, who has also said that they actually are not training GPT-5 right now, not in response necessarily to this letter, but in general, and they're testing the capabilities of GPT-4 to make sure that it actually, that it's safer and trying to push the best performance out of that instead of creating a new large model. But on the other side of things, Anthropic, which arose out of previous OpenAI employees and is like the second largest language model creator in the world at this point. There was a leaked investor slide deck where they showed that they wanted to create a 10 times the size of GPT-4 model. So that is quite scary, and I don't think that seems like a good choice to make, especially not in the light of this letter and the many experts that say that there is a legitimate risk for all this. And then, of course, you have Satya Nadella and Google. So Satya Nadella is the CEO of Microsoft. And he has explicitly said that, now we're in a race. We're going to race with Google. And generally, these race dynamics are very, very unhealthy for the types of deployment practices that we see from companies. So if Microsoft says they're in a race, then Google is going to suddenly deploy something that's unsafe. And Microsoft might as well too. So Bing, for example, in the beginning was quite a funky creature. Yeah, and on the status of AI governance, we have seen a lot of, actually, it seems very healthy, very good responses to some of the changes that are happening in AI. So specifically, the European Union has been doing a lot over the last 6 years to create the EU AI Act, and that is it's an act that's focused on applications of AI. And in the 13th act of the EU AI Act, which is a meta-act thing, they define, or they try to define what artificial general intelligence looks like and how they should regulate it. And they haven't figured it out, if you didn't know. So they have left that to later stages. In China, there's just a week ago, I believe, or 1.5 weeks ago, the Department for Cyber Defense put out a recommendation for legislation in China on what types of regulations they should follow. One of them being follow the CCP, follow the leader's words, and that's the only one that looks a bit bad, right? But the others are actually make sure that the implicit rights of people who have been not exploited, but for example artists are respected in the process of creating these technologies. That we see that it has to be trained on 100% objective truth, which is of course in general very, very hard in the world, but it makes a lot of the training data that OpenAI and colleagues they use quite obsolete to some degree. So for example, you can't use Twitter because that's obviously not true. And for the White House, they've also released a clause on their responsible AI development and how they see the US playing a part in creating and facilitating responsible development. They with the UK have taken a more like, we foster innovation at the same time, and the whole government, you also want to support your local businesses, and there's a DeepMind, there's an Anthropic, there's an OpenAI. So the ones that look strongest at the moment is the EU AI Act, and we'll see what China does with the recommendations they've made now. Yes, and in this field, since there's so much happening and so many different paths we can take, I really recommend that you take your own path, that you look at what excites you, what makes you, what do you look at and think, this is where I can have impact? This is where I can look at a problem and yeah, and and really both get excited, but also have a sort of competitive advantage to working on it. And some of the things is that, you know, think about the problem, read alignment forum as little as possible. It is, of course, read it. It is really, really good content. A lot of it is also on the strategies and thoughts that go behind why we do AI safety research. But take your own path. Really, that's a really good recommendation that I've also received several times. But basically, because you can quite quickly get caught on the alignment forums thought processes and how they work, while there is a whole field outside of it, where a lot of different both research but also policy is happening in different ways, and bringing in that thought in a good way to your perspective on AI safety is very good. And also have people to share thoughts with. I'll share a list of links at the end of this talk as well. But aisafety.community has a basically just has a long list of different communities you can join online, where you can share all your thoughts and really, you know, discuss with local groups and discuss with yourself and discuss with ChatGPT and discuss with these Discord groups as well and communities. And then there is a small note on forming inside views in AI safety. So in general, there is a perspective that we need to, you know, we need to not defer. We need to make sure that we understand our perspective on AI safety, that we can look at the problem and really have our own views and not just say, oh, but AGI Kocher made this cool report, so I'll just say that's the time AGI will arrive. And in this case, like any other research, really take it with a grain of salt. Go in and, you know, research other fields as well. And there are never like 100% inside views and 100% deferring. So deferring being the just using another's report or just using another's views. It's always, you know, a dynamic process, and especially as you're coming in from a junior position, then it's a dynamic process of making sure that you sort of have the information available, and you're not an expert yet. So of course you want to defer a little bit, but also like, yeah, take the views as they come instead of thinking that you have to create this inside view. And the last point is AI safety research really isn't much harder than many other types of research. The main point is just that we have a deadline for this research, and other fields don't necessarily. They're just happy trotting along. So AI safety research really isn't much harder than many other fields. And you can do meaningful progress on the main problems, on prosaic alignment, making sure that some of the current systems are more truthful, for example, that they are less susceptible to deceptive attacks, that they're better trained to handle out-of-distribution errors and so on. And in general, there's been this 2021-2023 paradigm shift. So the convergence of several different strategies, where now it looks a lot like they agree on the paradigm of looking at a neural network, figuring out how does it represent the world, and then because we see neural networks are some of the best ways to create AI at the moment, understanding those, reverse engineering them, finding the anomalies that happen as they're working in deployment and in training, and fixing them before they come out on the other side and are deployed. These seem like some of the convergence that's happened from like five, six different agendas within the alignment forum and the alignment community's research. So there's also part of this being the culture shifts that we've seen in the beginning. When I joined, there was quite a bit more, I guess, a bit more pessimism or a bit more criticism of research, while now it feels like you can actually take on some real problems and work on them, for example, during a weekend at some of our hackathons, shameless plug. But this is something that's happening now, that you can actually do real progress on real problems. And of course, at the same time, we have to remember there are some hard problems with AI safety. This is it's an existential risk, and I assume I don't have to talk too much about that. But it is an existential risk that AI is being developed, and we just have to ask the hard questions, like what can we actually do to make sure that what can we actually do, and not just take the obvious choice, but take the real choices as well. So make sure that even though, of course, you can defer and everything, it's still very good to understand the problem and go and go deep with it and understand why you're working on what you're working on, why you're taking the path you are. In the beginning here, of course, there's a lot of just upskilling and understanding what is happening in the field, looking at the research, talking with friends about it, talking with communities about it, and then at the end, maybe you'll have the answer to alignment. So, also a few points on some of the terms that are used in the more rationalist discourse of AI safety. We have something called "Are you fit for alignment research?" Well, in reality, I think it's mostly just you should do object level things. It goes back to the agenda setting thing, but you should do object level work. So go into the Transformer Lens library, take their demo collab notebooks with Python, just run through them, change them, see what happens, and do that for 10 hours or something. And then you have a much better understanding of if this work is for you than if you just read and don't actually do the work, the object level work. And of course, the others also work, but it is much more obvious to you if it's a fit for your mindset on research, if you actually do it as well and you actually look at it. And the other one is there's been a notion that you have to be a super genius to work on AI safety, especially in the noughties in 2000s, where it's a question of well, we just need 12 geniuses in a basement to work together to solve alignment, and then it'll be done. And yes, we do, but there are a lot of people in the world, and it'll be hard to, one, find the super geniuses, but also, two, everyone can sort of become a super genius. If you look at super geniuses, I don't know, super genius is also a dumb word, right? But if you look at geniuses through history, then their history has been, or their story through life has been quite just, oh, they did a thing, and then they did another thing, and then, oh, when they became 60, people saw them as geniuses. And so just do object level work and continue doing it, and of course, work hard, but work smart, and have a good time with it as well. So we're all human. We are not necessarily superhuman, super geniuses there. And take it as you go along, and don't feel discouraged at all. Just trot through it. It is a hard field. It's like any other research. So go for that. And there's a concept of truth seeking as well in rationalism. It's like, oh, you have to be a truth seeker. And this comes back to a lot of the scientific practices that we want to foster and facilitate, both within AI safety, but also generally. Where, for example, Chris Ohle had a great post on some of the good practices for research more broadly, and Michael Nielsen has written a lot about reinventing discovery. There's a book by him there, talking about how we can actually have good research practices where we are truth seekers, where we do look at the world and think, okay, well, what is the truth here? Instead of just publish papers, get citations, do the rest. But this is an issue in any other scientific field, so it's not special to AI safety. And I think it's very good to of course work from these assumptions as well, and that everyone is sort of truth seekers, especially in a community where we care so much about the problems, right? We are not here to get citations. We're here to help each other solve a massive problem. And for mental health, it's my personal take is for both for your mental health, but also for your productivity, is to avoid doomism too much. Of course, there are some massive changes in the world right now, and there are reasons to be a bit discouraged. But of course, have realistic visions of what a future will look like with AI, and have realistic visions of what the existential risk estimates are, and be excited, positive, and productive. So, over here to the right, you have the timelines report from Ajay Katra, and then you have, I had to include it because it's very funny, but Ajay Katra posted this joke, which says GPT-4's performance on various benchmarks, while impressive, suggests scaling curves are bending down somewhat, which just means, oh, maybe AGI will come later. And so my timelines have pushed out slightly. I am now buying green bananas, which of course indicates that, well, they now have time to ripen. Which is hilarious, and sets sort of the tone for the perspective we see. Of course, take all of this with a sense of humor. This was posted relatively soon after GPT-4, and if the people who actually write the timeline reports say give some humorous takes, then this is do that as well. Have some humor about it, because it is a tough field, and it'll be more fun if we laugh as we solve it all. And then there is a point on mentorship and collaboration. Part of these communities as well is is making sure that you actually have someone to talk with about these things. And there are established networks and established programs for people to get direct mentorship from some of the top AI safety researchers. And I've listed a few here: Cerimats, MLabs, AI Safety Camp, Refine, ML4G, ML for Good workshops, and the Apart Lab from us as well. And there's a lot of many more acronyms in AI safety. There's PIBBSS as well, and a lot of other ones. So just search random letters on the internet, and you'll find a new AI safety research program. But these mentorship networks are absolutely wonderful and amazing, and give a lot of opportunity. And many have stipends for you to work with AI safety while not being worried about the situation monetarily, and actually getting a lot of advice and a lot of help as well. So Cerimats, I think they might be closing their round. No, they've just started a new cohort, so they have a cohort happening probably in autumn as well. But otherwise, many of the other programs, you can find those at some links I've put at the end as well. And join these communities again. For example, the Alignment Jam Discord server is on alignmentjam.com. That's one of them. But otherwise, AIsafety.community has a long list of great areas where they are focused on different things. So some examples are also the Shard Theory and Cyborgism Discord servers. So these are communities that are focused on specific agendas or specific perspectives on how we can solve alignment within AI safety. So Shard Theory is like figuring out how does neural networks represent in shards of what the world actually looks like within its network. And the other one is Cyborgism, which is basically trying to create superhuman cyborgs to solve alignment, which is very fun and very interesting, and I recommend just going in and chatting about. And of course also start weekly meetups. I think that's just super helpful. Have an AI safety pizza night, an AI safety board game night, something where you can just chat. There's no expectations, and people will join. Like, make it a public event, and you'll suddenly see 5 more people in your area coming along. That's what we did locally as well. And like, wow, a bunch of random people I never knew dropped by, and that's wonderful. And then you have someone to talk with as well. I assume you already have that, but now in AI safety as well. So and some of the resources for this, you have the European Network for AI Safety, EAGxNordics.co. We will later have more resources on how to start local communities, but right now you have an overview of communities happening in Europe. So also in the north here, I think there are some locations in Stockholm and in possibly other places in Sweden as well, but otherwise Copenhagen and Norway has a bunch. And then alignmentjam.com for some of the where a lot of people, you saw the locations list of a lot of where the events had been across the world. Well, you can host a hackathon yourself as part of this, where we provide all the hard parts of hackathons, and you just get together with a few friends and a couple of energy drinks and create the future of AI safety. And now I would like you just to go through for 5 minutes and chat with the ones beside you on what will be your next 2 concrete steps in AI safety. And you can expand the amount of steps if you think it's too few. All right, I hope everyone had some good discussions here. I'm curious to hear just from a couple of you, what are some of your next steps? So if anyone want to just raise their hand and chat a bit about what they're going to do next. Yeah. Nice, very good idea. That's a good move. That's what an AI safety is called, a good move. Anyone else? Yeah. Nice. Yeah, that's a wonderful idea. And there is a philosophy fellowship, I think, starting this year. So you can get them to join that as well. But amazing. I hope you have some ideas now, and maybe even someone to talk with about it. So now is sort of the time for questions, but I will just go through a few of these different links that I've put as a list here. So AI Safety Community, I already talked about that one. It's basically an overview of all of the online communities virtual communities, so like EA co-working in Town and these cybergism communities, the alignment jam communities, and so on. You have AIsafety.training, which is an amazing resource for a lot of different events happening across the world that you can join. So, for example, this EAGxNordics was there. Our hackathons are there. A lot of the fellowships are there with deadlines and everything. It's wonderful. And on enice.co, there's actually also the European-specific events, and we have someone who collaborate with the AIsafety.training to add these European events, which is absolutely wonderful. And so you'll see them all there. And enice.co/map has a description of a lot of these places that AI safety is happening in Europe. And the newsletter.mlsafety.org is a technical newsletter that happens monthly that explores different topics in machine learning safety, so many of these academic fields. And newsletter.safe.ai is more like, oh, what is happening related to AI safety? And you have news.apartresearch.com, that's coincidentally us. And there we have some weekly updates on what is happening in research, and we also have updates on the hackathons and on some of our personal operations too. And navigatingrisks.substack.com is a new newsletter by Simon Canvas and the gang, and they're looking at some of the AI governance and some things we can do in AI governance. So I really recommend following that if you're interested in AI governance, because they explore a topic in depth bi-weekly and then also summarize what has been happening. And you have readingwhatwecan.com. This is a little side project we set up with just 20 books or 20 texts in 20 days. So if you're very ambitious, you can do that one as well. And there's a few different lists too, and a list of sci-fi books if you're interested, related to AI. And agisf.org/opportunities from our good friends at AGI Safety Fundamentals course, and they keep that opportunity board relatively updated. There are at least a lot of opportunities both in jobs and these different programs. And then alignmentjam.com for some of the hackathons too. So that's just a list that I recommend you go through and check out. And otherwise, I don't know, this is not exhaustive to any degree. So there's so many good lists out there and so many good resources that you can go for too. Well, that concludes my talk at the moment, and then we jump to questions.
Yeah, so remember to head on to Swapcard to insert your questions and also upvote other people's questions. Thanks for the talk, Esben. But the first question is, do you have any idea how the research compares between the two current major hubs? Are there any differences, and can we learn from one another?
Yeah, so there are some major differences. San Francisco is very focused on this large language model research, and a lot on so from the AI development perspective as well, that's just where that is happening. The whole AGI thing, that's where it's being built. DeepMind, and I think Demis Hassabis, the co-founder of DeepMind, has taken some positions on the safety of these models, where I hope that's because DeepMind hasn't done a lot of this type of work, but they've done more narrow domain AI. So these AIs, for example, like AlphaFold, that solve a centuries-old problem, but aren't general enough to because human language is something that can encode nearly anything. So a lot of these differences are related to the narrow versus the broad domain, and also the productization domain versus the more research-focused domain of DeepMind. So that's a few of the differences there. And then you also have, I don't know, there are multiple sub-communities in each area that I can go into, but maybe that will take a while too.
What are some of the main specific risks that experts are concerned could prove to be existential risks?
Yeah, so many people think about some of the, for example, cyber warfare being much easier, and AIs, if you release them into something that, if you create them into something that is actually extremely good at hacking things, then whoever has the best AI just takes over a whole country's infrastructure or whatever. These are some of the risks that experts generally think about. I personally think one of the most compelling cases is just if we in 2050 have a war, an international war going on, there will nearly, without a doubt, be autonomous drones, right? Or some sort of lethal autonomous weapon system, these laws, or as FLI coins them, slaughterbots. And I think that is a good coinage because it puts, it puts the dot on the I of the real problem there. That we don't want weapons that can autonomously kill humans. And this will probably happen in a world war where there are race dynamics and some of the risky deployment things that we are very scared of in the current race between, for example, Google and Microsoft. But between two countries at war, that's going to be even worse, right? So these are some of the risks that I see, where it's just very compelling, and where something like a nuclear risk will maybe leave 200 million people. Something like an uncontrollable AI-based lethal autonomous weapon system will be able to, yes, make humanity go extinct, which is not a nice thought. There are also worlds where it goes nicely, so don't get too discouraged.
Yeah, there is hope out there, right?
Yes.
So you mentioned that academia has a lot of potential for AI safety research. However, current recent developments are very heavily computationally expensive. So academia might not have the resources to compete with that. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So this is quite a normal issue, and someone like UK are building a supercomputer to facilitate this like academia industry dynamic, and make sure that the UK academic community has access to it. Europe has some of the world's biggest supercomputers as well that are in like a tiered application system, because you know when you use a supercomputer, you also get like a grant of 100 million euros or something because they cost a lot to run. And so this is like anything else. It's relatively hard to get your hands on because you need to have a very compelling case for it. In general, Anthropic and OpenAI are relatively open to collaboration as well, especially within the AI safety community. So you'll see a lot of, for example, the NYU Alignment Research Lab with Sam Bowman and the people there, along with David Kruger's lab and some of his work in Cambridge. They've collaborated with Anthropic and with OpenAI. And Alignment Research Center for that matter as well, even though they're like sort of quite into both organizations. So in this case, it's not necessarily the compute that's necessary, but it is access to the large models, which is another problem of out-of-hub research. So in general, they are quite keen to collaborate. Of course, you won't get access to the raw models, and you won't get access to the data, and you won't get access to the weights. So it is an issue, but it is a solvable issue. And if you go through the normal academic channels and collaborate with someone who might have access to it, like a professor or someone who has previously collaborated, or someone from Anthropic, then this is possible to do anyways. Yeah.
What are your personal AI timelines, and how important is it to think about that?
So timelines are really hard to think about in general, and personally, right now they're at 11 to 15 years or something, but who knows? I don't know. Like, it's also a question of what is the definition of the thing we are building a timeline for, right? Because AGI, I think we already have AGI. That is sort of solved. Humans, like on benchmarks, for example, it performs better than humans in many cases. There are, of course, a range of domains where it doesn't, but these are like not economically relevant, or like this just requires OpenAI to look at a problem for a year and then it's solved. Like art, for example, right now, commercial art is being displaced by AI. This is quite a good indication that we already have something that can spread to AGI. And as mentioned, language is a general encoding scheme for most information. So this prompt-based machines like AutoGPT are sort of already AGI. So it's a question of what is the timeline for either extinction risk for like the path, or what is the timeline for artificial superintelligence. And I don't know. It's not necessarily super useful to think about, as long as you have like some rough estimate, then you can work from that in terms of how you design your career and design what you're gonna do as some of your next steps.
You talked about object level research before. Could you maybe go over that a bit again?
Yes.
Clarify.
Yes, so object level research is doing the research and doing the actual thing and not thinking about what you should do. But of course you still have to think about what you should do, but sometimes people can get bogged down in just reading less wrong, for example, or just reading some of the AI safety literature that is not from the academia side, where the academic side also actually dives into the machine learning algorithms, provides the code, goes into the GitHub. Like the main thing there is object level research is sitting with the code and making a thing happen, while non-object level research is meta thinking, and it's just a very good idea to understand what is the object level work that is being done, and how do you fit into that. Yeah.
something I've been personally wondering is it can be very easy to feel overwhelmed by all of these materials, links, organizations, people giving all sorts of advice. So, like, yeah, how do you cope with that? If you're interested in safety and you look at all of this and you're like, where do I start?
Yeah, so there are lists of lists as well. No, that's not necessarily a good suggestion. But like any other field, I mean, there are a lot of links. There is a lot to read. Yes. And like these newsletters are some very good ones, and you can read previous issues as well to understand what is happening right now. What are people looking at? What are the researchers looking at within the field? And just following along is a very good choice, because if you get it in your email every week, that's a good place to start. And you just you're scrolling your emails, and then you see that, and you're like, oh well, I can just skim that. And now you're sort of engaged in what is currently happening. And slowly but surely, all these links will make sense, and there'll be something along the way that where you see the value of these.
So you have to start somewhere, basically.
Exactly. I think so. I think the newsletters in general are quite a good place to start, and finding a community to do it with. So AI Safety Pizza Nights, that's the place to start in reality.
Yeah. After this, we will be going to the Apart Research office hours. So you can follow us if you want to, if you've signed up for that. Otherwise, thank you so much, Esben. Let's give you a warm thank you.
Thank you.